So the point of the talk really is that we have voice technology. Voice technology has been around for a while. And some of us love it. Some of us hate it. But we're in the industry. And so ultimately, I went ahead and I asked people not in the industry what they were thinking. See if it compared, see if it works together, and potentially what we can do to maybe change that difference. Because ultimately, in 2022, in November 2022, when ChatGPT came about, the industry changed for chatbots. I don't know if any of you noticed it, but before 2022, we were sort of seeing a decline in chatbots. People were like, I don't want to chat, they're kind of boring, maybe we'll just, we'll invest more in voice, maybe we'll get better IVRs. And we were looking at that. But the problem really, really became that ChatGPT set expectations and then met them. And it set such high expectations that even when it fails, and it can fail horribly, people still want to use chat. But go ahead and look at voice, and it's completely different. If you look at voice and you say, well, people want to use it, and it's just maybe not working for them. Google Duplex came out in 2018. Google Duplex set an expectation that it could not meet, and this sort of ruined Voicebots. People were now saying, well, we could do this, and that's if people knew Google Duplex. But they're like, it could do this, why is it not? And now we're stuck with IVR systems that are a mix of older technology and newer interactions, but we haven't gotten rid of the old stuff. And so ultimately, when this starts working, you'll see that most people that I queried 100 people, I was very, game show about it, and when they think of Voicebots, they don't think of Siri, they don't think of a digital assistant, they think IVR. And they explicitly think IVR. And even when you say, okay, well, it's this, they go back to IVR. And so that's the point. Well, not this one. Not that one. Not that one. This one. Cool. Okay, so now we're 3 minutes down, and we have a little bit of what this presentation is about. So why would I say Voicebots are dying when the industry numbers disagree? Because the industry numbers, if anyone here is in market research, are going to be disagreeing with me. They say that the projections are going up. 20.45% increase up until 2027. They say that right now we have 2.4 billion digital assistants in use, which is up 4 billion from the previous time that they did it, which I think was 2 years before. Search shopping revenue is expected to be 40 billion this year, and continue annually this way. And Google Trends suggests that people are actually looking at what voice AI is. So why would I say this? So I talked to people, real people, because during this conference we've been talking about humanizing AI, about human-centric design, and we're talking to ourselves. But we've talked about the waitress. Who here has heard the waitress story? Yeah. So I'm not going to talk about the waitress story. But I'm going to say that I talk to people. And when asked what is a Voicebot, 66% of that, or 66 people out of the 100, made it easy on myself, think that IVR is a Voicebot. And then, 29 think that it's something that you can have a conversation with and to get answers. And then the bottom are people who are like, I don't know what it is. It means nothing to me. I'm from Rest World. And so how do they use them? Because I did ask that. I said, if you don't know what it is, what did you use it for? Well, Voicebots, as defined as something you can have a conversation with to get an action, like Siri or Google Assistant, 53% said that they rarely interacted with this. And, 19 said never, 18 said never. With IVR, it was like weekly. 28% that said they interacted with it weekly. 40% said rarely, which is, less, they're using a bit more. But then we look at chatbots. And I think that if we looked at this, if I did the same study just before ChatGPT came out, we would see a different number. But 14% said they use chatbots daily. And ChatGPT is part of how they did that. So which do they use, voice or chat? For what purposes? Because again, we're still looking what they said. Voice is most used for checking weather, searching music, and news. This matched what the industry says. If you look online, what do people use it for? What are the top 3 uses for Google search by voice? This will come up. And this is what people said that they mostly used it for, in addition to doctor's appointments. But when they were thinking doctor's appointments, they were thinking IVR, so I didn't put it here. And this was actually from the panel the other day. Chatbots allow people to secretly interact with them, to learn. So you're able to learn things in a way that helps you appear more knowledgeable without other people necessarily knowing. And I think that this has a lot to do with how people interact, with the form factor of how people interact. Because now they're able to ask questions in the middle of a conference. You're here and you're like, oh, did you get the numbers right? I'm not going to use Google because the first 350 results on Google are ads. I'm going to use ChatGPT, and it's all silent, and now I know things. So in general interactions, people preferred chatbots. They preferred them so much more. Those other ones are write-ins for human, neither. I disdain both equally. Humans in chat, and they prefer to get into with a human being. And voice bots, they were small, but they kind of got there with one person. And what influences? Why would they choose chat over voice? Well, how accurate it is. And we all know that it's not fully accurate, right? We all know that they have issues. But people also know that. It's one of the reasons why they're using it, because when they prefer chatbots 92% for interactions, they say that it's easier to fact check. I can take that and I can put it into Google. I can figure out what I need to do with that. They found that it was easier to explain via text because they could write, think, and then edit it. And then you can go back and read the info. If it says something and you go, oh, I agree with that, and then they say something completely different 2 sentences later, you go, what? Okay, maybe a hallucination, or maybe I didn't read it right, but I can check. You can't do that with voice. And voice bots often miss here. Now, this is a direct quote from someone. They said, voice bots normally don't provide results. For example, Siri often just shows search results, while ChatGPT at least attempts, even if it's wrong, to answer. And this really comes into how people interact with these things, these entities. So let's go and ask a question. Why? Well, the purpose of this conference is human-centric. And voice bots just are not. They're not human-centric because while they use language like we use language, they don't communicate properly. They don't give you time to wait. They don't repeat. They often go into failure loops before you've even thought of what my credit card number is, which is, great in case it's a scam. So when asked if there was a future for voice, 62% said no. I do not see a future with voice technology as it stands. 32% said maybe, like if I had to. And there was one that said indifferent, I think. Yeah. And in case you didn't catch that, this QR code says why people are thinking that. So, how do we make it human-centric, and how do we make it human-centric fast? Because 40% said maybe. Maybe with changes, there's a future with voice. And 37% said yes, there is a future with voice, but only with changes, because I don't want to interact with it as it is right now. And 23% said no, but the rules of thirds, you can't win everyone. So what can we do? What improvements could happen? Well, transcripts following an interaction. This would very much help with some transparency and data collection so that someone's able to, say, hey, this is what was said. I don't know about you, but a couple weeks ago I had a Google Pixel phone and it stopped working and I needed to get someone to help me. I went through call because I wanted to talk to a person, and also I went through chat, but it directed me to the call. And I no longer had access to that. So when they told me that my IMEI made my phone only in Japan, which means I can only fix it in Japan, and I don't live in Japan, that would be very expensive, cheaper to buy a phone. What can I do? I can't bring this into the person who sold me the phone, who said that they were a reseller, because I don't have the data. So when I requested the data, they said you have to do this and fill out this form and email this person, and then 3 weeks later, I still don't have that transcript. And so this is why transcripts. Wait loops. So you're able to say things like, wait 1 second, and then it just holds while you open your phone or open your wallet and get your phone, or you find a pen or something. Audits for IVR systems for consistency, because what people were saying was, oh, I'm close to 5 minutes. People were saying was they would go through the IVR systems, and what would they find? They would find that they had to say their phone number, and then they had to press the pound key, and they had to use multimodalities that they weren't prepared to use, because if they're in the car, suddenly they can't do that. And that's one of the main use cases of voice. I'm in a car and I can't do that. I can't take the phone down and I can't do that. I can't be in a room right here and get the information I need because I need to listen and I need to pull it down and I need to put it on speakerphone. So fixing that consistency would really help. And then this one I personally really like, which is audio embeddings to text token embeddings, so that the LLM can be converted into an ASR system. So you can improve understanding and it can fix the problems it has with accents, because we need to manage expectations. And I don't know how many of you in this room are Scottish, but if you saw that QR code and you watched it, who remembers 11? When I say 11, yeah? It doesn't understand. Voicebots don't understand Scottish voices saying 11. It's a hilarious video. So there are room for improvement, and there are things that we can do. And so there could be a future, but not if we keep going the way we're going. So with that, I'm going to say, any questions, comments, concerns, quandaries? I've left you 4 minutes. Hands, okay. Yes, yell it loud.
So the question is about comparing IVR to smarter assistants, and if you talk to your sample base about their perceptions changing as technology has evolved.
So there was a quote from someone who said that they have noticed that the technology is getting better, and so they do have hope for the future. But we specifically asked them how they interacted with systems, and they said on their phones, whether it was through a call or it was through their Google or Siri or Bixby assistant. And when we asked them to more specifically tell me, please, about the interactions that you had, they said that most of the interactions that they have, that they know that they've had, are press this number to get this, or say this and then press this number. We asked specifically, does anyone have a voice password? Because I remember 2-3 years ago, that started to become more and more of a thing. People were like, well, it's more secure. And then people said, no, it's not secure. Someone can copy my voice. It's going to be dangerous. And we had a good portion that said that they had voice passwords and that they hate them. Because as smart as the technology is, it's not the same as a person, and it relies on certain technologies. I'll give an anecdote really quickly. I have a voice password. I live in a country where I'm not the native language speaker, and I made that password day one, when I did not speak the language. And so now, every time I need to access my bank, I have to pretend like I don't speak the language and have never heard anyone ever say anything in that language. So it's secure, but people don't enjoy those interactions. And every single negative interaction you have with voice starts to affect how people are interacting with voice, which is, again, shocking, because I don't know if you remember about chats, but you remember Microsoft's Tay, do you remember Meta's Galactica, Meta's BlenderBot 3? Those were bots that were horribly racist, said horrible things, and still people like using bots. They had to remove all of those bots because of how bad it got, because of the systems that went into them, and people will still interact with bots. It's like with cars. You have an automated car, hits one person, suddenly the industry is stopped. You have a bad driver hit 7 people. Well, it's not the car's fault. The car was just like doing its thing. It's the person in the way or something. And so this is where I think that I hope this answers about how people interact, how they see things as being smart or not smart, because I don't think that they see them as being smart at the moment, because the trickle-down effect of all of what we're doing has not really hit people in a real way. Oh, and I should also mention the demographics of the people that I interviewed. From the ages of 18 to, I think it was 72, the majority being from the ages of 24 into 34, from 3 different countries. That sounds impressive, but it's not. People just happen to be in places.
I had a question. So we're in this interesting period right now, looking farther out into the future, things like the Voicebot asking, repeat your phone number, et cetera, those kind of annoyances. Imagining a time where, there's access to that data and it's much more personalized of a conversation. Maybe it's even something that, you pull up and you're able to talk to this virtual assistant that exists literally in thin air. Do you see a place for Voicebots to, make a return and have different numbers than what you might have presented today?
I think that I think we might skip Voicebots. I think that we may go more into multimodal systems. In 2016, Amazon Echo and Google Home were bought massively. People everywhere were getting them. They were on sales, they were fabulous, and you haven't seen those same numbers since. So I think that this is impacting it. And I also think, fundamentally, we say that Voicebots are accessible, but they're not, as they are right now. Because if you have any hearing problems, they don't repeat. They don't change based on your ability to hear. You can't read what is being said. A lot of people have, if you're neurodivergent, you have the difficulty to hear and to do something else. So you're staring off into nothing, and you kind of need those subtitles. Because with a person, I can look at you, and I can see your mouth move, and so now I know what you're saying. But with a Voicebot, I have to fully focus on that, turn off my eyes, and exist. And so I think that the future has voice, but I think it's multimodality in voice. Voice first, but not voice only.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Give it up for that great presentation and that research that you've done. Yeah.